They told Caitlin Clark she had a place in the room, just not the place she'd earned. The invitation came with conditions: sit quietly, fall in line, let someone else take the spotlight, be another jersey in the rotation instead of the name on the front page. But this was never only about minutes on the court. This was about control, about who gets to lead and who gets told to wait their turn. It was about ego, about resentment, and about the discomfort that comes when one player's presence shifts the entire balance of power. Basketball may be the stage, but the real battle is happening behind the curtain.
The player in the WNBA is jealous of Caitlin Clark.
This was supposed to be the moment that humbled one of the most electric stars in the sport. A calculated decision, a pressure point meant to test her. But Caitlin Clark didn't lash out. She didn't campaign. She didn't complain. Her response was silence. And that silence echoed across the entire league. On what followed didn't just shuffle a lineup, it shifted the narrative. Let's go back to the beginning. When Team USA started locking in its roster for the summer games, fans and analysts treated one name as automatic: Caitlin Clark, the record-smashing phenomenon out of the NCAA, the player who rewrote the college history books, the rookie whose arrival helped send WNBA viewership soaring to numbers no one could ignore. Leaving her out wasn't just a roster move, it was a statement.
Communicates her thoughts very, very well. She is so incredibly marketable.
One, she's the player whose jersey sales eclipse the rest of the league put together. The face fans line up to see, the name that moves merchandise, tickets, and ratings. But when the doors closed and the real decisions were being made, the committee reportedly had a different agenda. According to insiders, before the official roster ever went public, Caitlin Clark was approached with a proposal, not a true roster lock, not a meaningful role. Instead, something dressed up to look like an opportunity. A high-profile alternate spot layered with conditions that felt less like basketball strategy and more like a message. And then there was the number. They allegedly told her she'd be wearing number 12. To casual fans, that might sound insignificant. It's just a number, right? Not in basketball culture. Number 12 is typically handed to the last player on the bench, the body you fill in at the end of the lineup card. It's the quiet signal that you're depth, not difference maker. Present, but not pivotal. It's like being invited to the biggest event of the year, only to be told your seat is outside the main room. Think about the symbolism in that. A group of decision makers sitting around a table, staring at arguably the most marketable star the sport has ever seen, and deciding the smartest move was to attach her to a number that whispers afterthought. That's not accidental, that's intentional. One, that's choosing to teach a lesson instead of putting the strongest possible product on the global stage. Because Caitlin Clark isn't just any player cycling through any jersey. She is number 22, and that number isn't random. It's part of her identity. It's stitched into highlight reels, record books, and a cultural wave that's bigger than one season. That number is everywhere. It's stitched onto jerseys worn by little girls from coast to coast. It lives in the record books, from Iowa to Indianapolis. You don't just strip that away. You don't separate Caitlin Clark from number 22 any more than you separate 23 from Michael Jordan or 99 from Wayne Gretzky. So when the committee floated their proposal, it wasn't really an invitation. It was a step down disguised as an honor. A team-issued jacket wrapped around a clear message. You can join us, but not as you. Smaller, quieter. Fall in line, stand behind Diana Taurasi and Breanna Stewart. Understand the hierarchy. That was the arrangement on the table, and Caitlin Clark's response? Silence. No public outrage, no dramatic statement. She didn't campaign for sympathy, she simply removed herself from the equation, and in that quiet, the committee made its move, crossing her name off completely. But then the story took a turn no one anticipated. All season long, the media has pushed a simple narrative: Caitlin Clark versus the WNBA, the fearless rookie against resentful veterans. Every hard foul magnified, every icy interaction dissected, every clipped post-game answer turned into proof that the league resented its brightest new star. Some of that perception didn't appear out of thin air, but then Sophie Cunningham entered the picture, and suddenly the storyline wasn't so clean. Cunningham, a guard for the Phoenix Mercury, stepped into the conversation, and with her presence, the script started to shift.
Phoenix leading at fast break points 7-0. Too much dribbling. Cunningham with the shot clock at 5.
She's not the league's marketing centerpiece. She's not headlining national ad campaigns. Sophie Cunningham built her reputation the hard way, diving on the floor for 50-50 balls, stepping in to draw charges, grinding for every possession and every minute she earns. She plays with an edge, and she's never been known to shy away from conflict. That's why it hit differently when word started circulating that Cunningham was deeply frustrated with how Caitlin Clark was handled during the selection process, that she pushed back on the politics behind the scenes and refused to go along with the subtle anti-Clark undertone that had been building. That wasn't gossip, that was a shockwave, because this didn't come from anonymous fans online. It wasn't a viral thread or a throwaway podcast rant. This was someone inside the league. A player cashing checks from the same organization, someone who walks the same corridors, sits in the same film rooms, competes under the same banners, making it clear through her stance that what happened to Caitlin Clark didn't sit right, and that carries real weight. It shifts the entire dynamic. Suddenly, the millions of fans who felt something was off don't seem so dramatic. They don't seem paranoid. As if even competitors, players who battle Clark on the court and want to beat her every night, it can separate healthy rivalry from something more personal. That says a lot. Cunningham's position, whether voiced loudly or expressed through quiet resistance, sends a message. Competition is one thing, undermining someone is another, and that distinction changes everything.
Clark got destroyed. Her girl Sophie came to her defense, and this was the most beast mode thing that I've seen a woman do in WNBA.
What Sophie Cunningham's stance signals is bigger than one teammate defending another. Or as it hints at a split, like a visible crack in a wall that once looked solid. Because when one player is willing to push back, chances are others feel the same way but haven't stepped forward yet. To understand why this unfolded the way it did, you have to look at the mindset of the decision makers. The Team USA selection committee isn't an emotionless panel crunching numbers on a spreadsheet. It's made up of former players, longtime coaches, views, and league insiders, people who helped shape the WNBA's foundation. To them, a national team jersey isn't just about current momentum, it's a symbol of tenure, a reward for years of dedication. In their world, you pay your dues first, then you're handed the honor. For years, that system operated without much scrutiny. The spotlight wasn't that bright. The stakes, at least publicly, didn't feel massive. Then Caitlin Clark arrived and disrupted everything. As a rookie, she pulled in more national attention in weeks than many established stars had seen across entire careers. She didn't follow the traditional path. She didn't wait quietly behind veterans. She didn't seek approval. She showed up and played at a level that forced the entire basketball world to pay attention. And that sudden shift in gravity was hard for the gatekeepers to accept. Imagine dedicating 15 years to building a league brick by brick, and then watching someone who's been there a handful of games become the face of it overnight. For some, that's inspiring. For others, it's unsettling. Instead of viewing Clark's surge as a rising tide that could elevate everyone, the instinct seemed to be containment. Slow it down, humble it, reassert the hierarchy before it fully took off. Even before the season tipped off, Diana Taurasi's widely discussed reality check comments set the tone. The message was clear. This league has veterans, and rookies still have to earn their place. But the reality had already shifted.
WNBA fans, reality is coming. What do you see? The GOAT, the heir apparent?
It was meant as a warning and was signaled to Caitlin Clark and to everyone watching that the veterans weren't going to roll out a red carpet just because she shattered records. The selection committee ran with that attitude straight off a cliff. They wrapped personal grudges in phrases like defensive chemistry, international experience, and turnover concerns, hoping the basketball world would accept it as logic. But the world didn't accept it. The world exploded. Because when you strip away the excuses and look purely at the numbers, Clark's impact is undeniable. Her scoring, her court vision, her ability to create energy and attention for every team she touches. These are facts, not opinions. Some players on that Olympic roster logged fewer minutes and made less statistical impact than Clark would have off the bench. She wasn't left off because she couldn't play. She was left off because she was too dominant, too visible, too uncontrollable. That's a colossal miscalculation. And then there's the business side, which makes the decision even harder to justify. The WNBA is a league that has fought tooth and nail for survival. Players marched for higher pay, for chartered flights, for basic respect. They fought for the world to take women's basketball seriously. Then Caitlin Clark arrived, and the world finally did. She sells out arenas weeks in advance. She moves merchandise faster than the league has ever seen. She's a revenue engine, a walking spotlight, and yet the committee treated her as a threat rather than an asset. That's not just petty. That's baffling.
As we all know, Caitlin Clark has changed the face of the WNBA, whether it's ticket sales.
Caitlin Clark turns ordinary regular season games into must-watch events. She's not just an athlete, she's a revenue machine. And the Olympics? That was the single largest stage on the planet, a moment to showcase the future of women's basketball to billions, to turn casual viewers into lifelong WNBA fans. Instead of putting their best product front and center, the committee locked her away because they didn't like how she fit their mold. Sports economists estimate that Clark's absence cost the league and its broadcast partners millions. Lost revenue, lost engagement, lost opportunity. And for what? To shield a handful of veterans worried the spotlight might shift. That's not leadership, that's institutional self-sabotage. The jersey number 12 fiasco makes it even clearer. And they knew she was talented enough to make the team. They were willing to include her, but only under their terms. Small, quiet, controllable. When she refused to shrink to fit their comfort zone, they erased her entirely. Marketing experts have called it one of the most spectacularly mismanaged moments in modern sports. The golden ticket was in their hands, and they shredded it because the person holding it refused to bow. Every missed endorsement, every international fan who tuned out, every young girl who didn't see her hero on the court. That's the true cost, not just in dollars, but in cultural momentum. The WNBA had a once-in-a-generation opportunity to break into the mainstream, and the committee treated it like an inconvenience. And here's what they completely underestimated. They expected a reaction. They thought Clark would complain, lash out, make it easy to frame her as entitled or demanding. If she had argued about wearing number 12, they'd have labeled her a diva. If she had asked for a starting role, they'd have called her ungrateful. Anything she said would have been twisted into proof she wasn't ready for the big stage. But she gave them nothing. Silence. Absolute silence. And that silence has become her most devastating weapon. While the internet erupted in her defense and pundits tore apart the committee's excuses, Caitlin Clark went back to work. She broke assist records. She posted triple doubles. She played at a level so dominant that every excuse the committee tried to spin fell apart in real time. Her performance didn't just prove a point, it exposed the failure of those who tried to contain her.
Clark, the all-time leading scorer in major college basketball history. Queen Kate.
She didn't need to speak. Her performance said it all. Every deep three was a reply. Every no-look pass was a statement. Every sold-out arena was a reminder of what Team USA had left on the table. The stats told the story more clearly than any press conference ever could. Record-shattering assist totals, historic triple-doubles, fan engagement numbers that eclipsed anything the league had ever seen, while committee members dodged questions and fumbled through rehearsed lines about fit and experience. Caitlin Clark was writing her own response in box scores and highlight reels. Her detractors hoped she'd lose her cool, play into the entitled rookie narrative they had crafted. Instead, she delivered a masterclass in composure. By refusing to stoop to their level, she didn't just win the PR battle, she transformed the league's pettiness into the foundation of her origin story.
Mark here, and it's just incredible to see all the fans and how much she's just put into working, and then the impact she's had on this city is just amazing to see.
The shadow hanging over the games reached its peak on the court at Bercy Arena in Paris. A cruel twist of irony that played out in real time. The committee had left Caitlin Clark off the roster to avoid a media frenzy. They wanted the spotlight on the team, the mission, the legacy. Instead, they created a distraction far larger than anything Clark's presence would have caused. Here's what actually happened in Paris. Team USA barely made it through. In the gold medal game against France on August 11th, the Americans fell behind by as much as 10 points in the second half. The French defense suffocated them, forcing turnover after turnover, exposing the very gaps in ball handling and playmaking that a player like Clark could have patched immediately. Aja Wilson had to carry the team almost single-handedly, finishing with 21 points, 13 rebounds, and 4 blocks just to keep them in the game. Kalia Copper scored 10 of her 12 points in a frantic fourth quarter push. And on the final play, Gabby Williams banked a shot at the buzzer that would have sent the game to overtime, except her foot was on the three-point line. It counted for 2 instead of 3. Team USA squeaked by 67-66, 1 point, 1 inch. This was not dominance. This was survival. Every stagnant possession, every misfired connection, the internet reminded everyone of the obvious. Clark would have found the open shooter. Clark would have broken that press. Even Dawn Staley, a member of the selection committee, admitted afterward to NBC that, given Clark's current form, the outcome might have been very different.
going to lift that league up as well. So Caitlin Clark, if you're out there, one of the GOATs of our game.
She would have been at the very top of the list because she was performing far above many of the players who made the roster. One committee member even admitted on national television they got it wrong. Meanwhile, back in the US, the WNBA All-Star Game, featuring Clark going head-to-head with the Olympians, drew 3.44 million viewers on ABC, smashing the previous 2003 record of 1.44 million. The game that showcased the player they left behind pulled more attention than anything the league had produced in 2 decades. Over the course of that season, ESPN and ABC saw a 163% jump in WNBA viewership. Clark played in 20 of the 23 games that topped 1 million viewers. Her presence transformed the Indiana Fever, a team that had previously averaged just 4,000 fans per home game, into a record-breaking draw of over 17,000 per game, totaling more than 340,000 in attendance, a league record. 4 different teams even moved their home games to NBA arenas just to meet ticket demand, and yet the committee looked at all of that and said no thanks. The players on the roster earned gold and they deserved it. But the headlines weren't about their victory. They were about the shadow left by the woman who didn't make the trip. By trying to erase Clark from the story, the committee made her the story. The veterans may have wanted the stage for themselves, but by excluding the player the world actually wanted to see, they ensured the spotlight would never fully shine on them. So where does this go from here? The cracks are widening, the old guard is losing its grip, and the signs are everywhere. Sophie Cunningham, a player with nothing to gain and everything to risk, and is willing to push back against the system. That signals change. The silent majority inside the WNBA is starting to speak up. For years, the league operated like a sorority. Pay your dues, follow the hierarchy, eventually earn your moment. But money and attention change everything. Clark brought both in a way the league had never seen. Players who benefit from sold-out arenas and bigger TV deals are beginning to see that the gatekeepers aren't protecting the sport. They're holding it hostage. The number 12 jersey incident wasn't just a mistake. It's a symptom of something deeper. Envy. It's human nature to resent someone who achieves in 10 minutes what it took you 10 years to earn. But it's the league's job to manage those feelings, not weaponize them. They failed. Ego dictated a decision that should have been guided by merit and opportunity. They chose comfort over greatness, and the result is a PR disaster that will follow them for years. Videos dissecting Clark's snub pull more views than the Olympic highlights themselves. Think about that. The controversy over who wasn't on the team generated more interest than the games themselves. It says everything about what fans really care about. They want fairness. They want to see the best players compete. They want injustice called out when it happens. And maybe in the long run, this is the best thing that could have happened to Caitlin Clark. Every great athlete needs a villain. Every dynasty needs an origin story forged in disrespect. Michael Jordan had the teams that passed on him. Tom Brady had the 199th pick. Clark now has hers.
Objectively in football, the greatest of all time. Picked 199th in the draft.
And now Caitlin Clark wears jersey number 12. She carries with her the memory of the committee that tried to humble her, the league that attempted to make her small. That chip on her shoulder will travel with her to every game, every season, every record she shatters, all the way to the day she retires. A new generation is watching. Young women in high school gyms across the country are seeing how the best player in the world was treated by her own league. Some may feel discouraged, but the ones who truly matter, the ones with that same fire burning inside, will see Clark's response and learn the most important lesson sports can teach. The best revenge isn't anger. The best revenge is excellence. It's showing up night after night, performing at a level so undeniable that your critics are left speechless, out of excuses. That's what Clark is doing. That's the force that will define the next chapter of women's basketball. The jersey was meant as a warning. Number 12 was supposed to signal where they thought she belonged. Instead, it backfired. Change doesn't ask for permission. Progress doesn't pause for comfort. And those who tried to contain her are learning that the future cannot be caged. So here's the question to leave with you. How long before the league fully adapts? And who will be left behind when it does? Think about that. This story is far from over, and the next chapter is already unfolding.